And hello, I am talking to Nadine right now. A friend of hers got me in contact with her. She is all the way in Arizona, where it's nice and warm, I assume.
It is. It's beautiful.
It's good to hear from you. And your story is something that a lot of people tell me all the time in election time, and other things happen too. Either they're, subpoenaed to go to court, to in a jury or something, whatever it might be. But you left Michigan in what year?
I moved to Arizona in 1992.
Okay, you left to, in little background, you were in school, Michigan was struggling with the economy, and Arizona was booming, especially Phoenix. You
Correct.
went there for that reason?
Yeah, I once I graduated from Michigan State, I moved to Arizona to find a job here because the economy in Michigan was not great at that time. And I found a job and I've lived here ever since.
Cool. And when you move to a new state, I've done it several times. You get a new driver's license,
Correct.
you do a lot of different things. Do you register to vote in Arizona? How does that work in Arizona when you move to Arizona? What do you do?
So I registered I got, just as you said, I got my driver's license and eventually I did register to vote in Arizona, and I've been a registered Arizona voter for 20, 30 years, close to 30 years, probably.
Wow. And you are, or your parents are still, your parents who live in Michigan, they
Mhm.
are still getting mail in your name. And that's not unusual. I graduated from Eastern Michigan University. And when I graduated, my parents would still get letters asking for donations or whatever it might be. But you would actually get mail from the state, or is it within the past 5 years you started getting it?
In the past, actually 4 years, maybe 3 years, I've got started getting mail from the state to my parents' address in my maiden name, not my married name.
Okay. What kind of mail what kind of mail have your parents received with your name on it from the state?
A voter registration or voter whatever notification of precinct. I think I can't remember the specifics. And then most recently, last week, I got jury summons for federal court in Bay County.
Wow. And you haven't been in a legal Michigan resident in at least 20, 25 plus years?
Correct.
Because I'm going to have to look this up, and I'll admit when I'm wrong. I don't know how they get the jury pool, but I don't know if they get that from your license, or do you know how they get that?
I don't I know from Arizona they use the license or the voter registration to generate the jury pools. I'm not sure in Michigan. I don't follow the legal side of that.
Okay, so you've been in Arizona for 25 plus years. You moved from Michigan there,
Hmm.
and in the
Hmm.
2020 election, is that when I'm assuming it was probably an absentee ballot, maybe an application was sent to your parents' house in your name?
Yeah, I don't think it was an absentee ballot, but it was a card just about voter registration and that where to vote.
Okay, it had your name on it.
Correct.
And what did you think? You're like, what?
Well, I said more than that, and I was wondering if there was some either incompetence or even corruption happening in the state of Michigan, that I suddenly am getting voter information sent to my parents' house for me to vote locally during that election, when I haven't been a resident or a voter in Michigan for a very, very long time.
And this was in relation to voting. So your name
Yes.
was obviously still on the voter rolls in Michigan, even though you've been gone for more than 25 years.
Yeah, which is surprising because my parents should have been, prior to 2020, been getting then my mail, because if I was on the voting records, before that, and I voted in Michigan in 92 before I left for Arizona. So that probably was, I'm guessing, around the last time I voted, and I probably voted absentee back then, but they have not gotten any mail between that point and now, or, in 2020. So I'm not sure how suddenly I got selected, or, voter information.
Yeah, and I know during COVID, I think in Michigan, several states were different. In Michigan, you could ask to have the ballots mailed to you, but you weren't even thinking about Michigan politics probably at the time. You're soaking in the
Uh,
sun.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I followed the Whitmer reelection campaign there, but that's
yeah,
about it, through
yeah.
the media.
So you actually did what most people maybe wouldn't do. you actually were curious and you can track your ballot or your name. What did you do?
I found out where in Michigan I could go and make sure that nobody voted on my behalf, right? Because there's a lot of identity theft today, even though I have identity theft protection. I still wanted to make sure that nobody was voting on my behalf there, because I cast my ballot here in Arizona in person on election day.
So did your name actually show up when you searched Michigan? Did you come up as a?
I did, yeah. I remember,
Wow.
I think I remember seeing my name, but that I had not cast a ballot. So then I just dismissed it because I obviously didn't have anybody casting it in my place, right?
So I've been talking to a lot of county or clerks. They're trying to clean it up. I live in a small city, so the township clerk or whatever, they're able to clean up the voter rolls, but it's a big issue. What are your concerns? And I'm not trying to say there was, fraud or anything, but and it leaves it open to the possibility on all sides that there could be trouble. And that's not how you would run a business either, by doing something like with bookkeeping and that.
Right.
What are the dangers then in your mind? Fraud would come, obviously, or someone misusing that.
Right. Well, obviously there's concern is corruption of whoever is running the show at the time.
Yeah.
And so, we don't want that, right? Because then we'll start questioning all of our voting records and who is winning, and we're not going to be able to trust then our democracy if that happens. So
there should be a way, and I'll wrap this up soon, a way to tell if your license is expired in Michigan, which it has been, obviously, then there should be some cross-referencing of computers. Right. If they can send an alert to my phone quickly, or they should be able to do this. There is software in place. Other states like Florida, they do it amazing. I don't know what Arizona's like, but Michigan has some work to do.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what Arizona's done or doing. I didn't hear or pay attention to whether we had problems similar to what I experienced in Michigan.
I haven't heard. So your advice to Michigan, or even even people like you, there's been so many who moved out of Michigan. You probably know a lot in Arizona, right? That have moved from Michigan to Arizona.
Just a few people we've known.
Just a few.
Yeah.
So maybe it wouldn't hurt to take a look, because if you've moved, because there's a chance your name could still be on the voter rolls.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to have you on just to bring this to light, and maybe if people are in other areas, just go online, try to find out, call the clerk where you used to live. It'd be interesting, because the state of Michigan and other states need to do something as well. So I'm glad you took the time to talk about it, because I don't think changes will happen unless as my mom said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or
Agreed.
Whatever. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
So good luck in Arizona.
Thank you.
Like I said, I might be headed down there next year, so maybe I'll stop by and say hello.
Sounds good.